Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver's global supply chain. Let's explore! Yes, Visual Capitalist has come out with a new visualization here, a new infographic on silver's global supply chain, and this particular image was put together by BlackRock Silver Corporation. I think it's quite eye-opening because we know how complex the supply chain is. We've been hearing about it a lot in the news as of late, and certainly precious metals are not immune to this type of thing. We're hearing more and more about it. In fact, I referenced it in my video, Silver Squeeze 3.0, that is coming. And what will be that squeeze as I define it? It's a little different than most in the community would define it, but it's essentially a squeeze on the supply of silver products. And that's what we're going to be talking about here in this infographic in part. Silver is as versatile as metals get. In fact, I would dare say it is probably the most versatile precious metal out there with the most efficient uses. In other words, it is more efficient in everything it is involved in. However, one can make the argument that copper is probably as versatile, if not more. It is more widely used because it is much cheaper and much more abundant. However, silver is as versatile as metals get with applications in these industries, such as this renewable energy, jewelry, electronics, and obviously they say investment, but I would maybe make the argument that it's a better hedge than it is an investment. So the world needs a stable supply of silver for the silver-intensive future that lies ahead. No question about that. And by the way, they don't mention here in the biomedical field as well, too. Silver is widely going to be picking up in demand in that area for obvious reasons. So let's talk about the top 20 producers of silver. Silver miners operate across the globe. The majority of production occurs in a few regions. And you can see here that the origin and destination from this map, if you look at the 2020 production of silver coming out of all of these different countries, look at where Canada is in terms of the amount of ounces, which is not a whole lot, 9.3 million. The U.S. has 31.7 million. But you look, the darker the color, the more intense the amount of silver that is flowing in and out from the origin to other countries around the world. Look at Mexico. Mexico is 178.1 million ounces. It hosts 9 of the 3 largest silver mines in the world. And I'm going to actually be talking about Mexico in a video coming very, very soon about a company that is operating as a mid-tier silver producer. So stay tuned for that. But we can see all the movement there from Mexico, especially into China. It looks like a lot is going into China because that's where a lot of the manufacturing of these products takes place. Very, very interesting indeed. Peru obviously is in that top tier as well. Peru is 109.7 million ounces. A lot of that is going into, a lot of the silver that is produced in the Western Hemisphere is going to the Eastern Hemisphere, for sure. Fascinating indeed. I think it's also interesting here that Australia is producing silver, 43.8 million ounces, more than the United States, but there's really not a whole lot of movement out of the country. Same thing with the United States, it looks like. But obviously these are major destination routes, major trade flows of silver ores and concentrates from 2019. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the silver produced in the countries is not going in other places, but just as ores and concentrates. By the way, Poland is a fairly large producer of silver as well. 50% of global silver production comes from Central and South America. So silver supply chain spans all 4 hemispheres, but how secure is this supply? And by the way, when they say 4 hemispheres, they're talking about the northern and southern hemisphere. as well as the Western and Eastern Hemisphere. So we have the sustainability of silver supply is volatile. The concentration of silver production in South and Central America puts it at risk of disruptions that can rattle entire industries. So we have some mining conflicts in Latin America that could affect this, and they're showing Mexico's 55 with the most, because obviously they produce the most silver, so that would make sense. Mexico, Chile, and Peru, three of the top 5 silver producing countries, have the highest number of mining conflicts in Latin America. Now, COVID-19 related mine closures in Peru, Argentina, and Mexico led to a 46 million ounce decline in 2020 in production relative to 2019. And really, we're still recovering from that. So the mines closures and, of course, taking and refining that silver and moving it through the supply chain has been a challenge ever since the pandemic. Silver production is not only concentrated in regions with many conflicts, but also depends on the supply of other metals. For sure, that is one thing a lot of people sort of forget. The primary silver mining is going down, we know, but as a byproduct of other metals, silver is produced. So in 2020, only 27% of silver production came from primary silver mines. The rest was a byproduct of other metals, and I actually thought it would have been less than 27%. So 73% of silver produced is mined as a byproduct of lead and zinc, 32%, of copper, a quarter, 25%, and 16% of gold, and then others are 1%. The world's biggest silver mines are aging, and that's averages 29.5 years from the top 10 silver mines. All as existing mines deplete, regions that are stable and offer primary silver production will provide a secure supply of silver. But where? Nevada is one, and we've talked about bringing silver back to the silver state. Nevada, we've talked about that in a previous video, but it is known as the silver state for its rich history in silver mining. Today, it's the second largest silver producing state in the United States, 6.3 million ounces produced in 2019. It offers several advantages for mining companies, from friendly policies to infrastructure availability. It's politically stable and mining friendly, world's top mining jurisdictions for investment attractiveness, access to infrastructure, extensive transportation networks, and economic significance. Those are a lot of the key factors for having a successful mine. Besides these advantages, Nevada also has the right place to look for silver, the Tonopah district, and it has it's Nevada's primary district. The Comstock lode, Nevada's first grade silver discovery, produced 192 million ounces over its lifetime. After its decline, Tonopah led the resurgence of silver mining in Nevada. And we can see how much gold and silver has been produced there in Tonopah district here and throughout the time. Historic silver production is 174 million ounces and had a silver to gold ratio of 100 to 1 mining in that area. It means a lot of silver compared to gold in that particular region. During the peak production, it was 11 million ounces of silver per year. Now it's to revive a safe and stable supply of silver in Nevada, and Tonopah has a quality to bring silver back to the state. And so you have areas like this and others, even in Mexico, we're seeing switch over from primary base metal mining to actual silver and gold production. And even within the gold production, silver will be mined as a byproduct of that. And I'll be talking about that in that video to come about Mexico. You want to stay tuned for that. Now, what this infographic doesn't get into is what happens to the silver after it's mined. You know, we talk about major flows of silver ores and concentrates coming out in order to be refined, but it has to be refined, and there's supply issues in that regard as well. So the supply chain is affected not only by mining and refining silver and moving it across all four hemispheres, but it also is about taking that silver and refining it down to the purity that's needed, the fabricating it into the different uses, like silver paste for photovoltaics. That's a strong one. That's one that is quite high in demand. And then also into wire for use in electronics, and also compiling it for nanotechnology, providing it in a way to mix it with other metals for other uses in industry, but also in the medical field, to be able to provide things like, for instance, colloidal silver solutions, all sorts of different applications in that regard. And now we're starting to see more and more industrial uses of silver widen and span out in terms of using silver in fabrics as antibacterial, and just all sorts of different styles. In electric vehicles, in our electronic devices, it must be fabricated into chip technology, semiconductors, that type of thing, and uses all over. And then we talk about bullion demand, bullion and coin and round demand. And there is bottlenecks happening in production in those areas, as we have seen in the past, and we are about to see again, as I predicted based off of a video that I talked about before. The silver squeeze 3.0 is coming, and that is directly related to manufacturing for bullion, for as a hedge against economic instability, as we talked about in this section here. And that is, and obviously jewelry as well. So they must be fabricated. And there's a lot that is involved in that, and then shipping it around the world. I wonder how much silver is stuck off the coast of Los Angeles, California, in those container crates that are just sitting there. And that is a fair question to see where what's stuck, and then how it's going to be shipped into and trucked across the United States of America, for one. And that's just in this country. What about other nations around the world as well? There are shortages of products, and getting them out to the people and out into the economy. We've talked about the U.S. Mint in terms of coin production, and they call it the coin shortage. Well, it's a shortage of coins in people's pockets for commerce daily, but it's not for lack of coins being produced by the United States Mint. They have matched or increased their 2019 levels. In fact, really, they should probably slow down a bit, because if it's bottleneck, if it's held up by the supply chain itself, and as a break in that supply chain, producing more isn't going to help get it out to the people any quicker. It's a matter of getting the truck drivers. It's a matter of getting the container, however those distribution channels are, mostly armored vehicle. And as I've talked about, finding those drivers and those people to do that job, which a lot of us forget about these days. When we see an armored vehicle, we just assume, hey, that's a very secure vehicle and doing its job. But those people really are not paid that well. And because of the pandemic and everything that's going along with it, there's less and less people working these days, not only in that industry, but all across the board, because, they're getting their stymie. And there's more and more businesses offering, higher wages for people to get back to work. And but nonetheless, there's all these different levels to the supply chain. Shoot, just when you go into a grocery store, there's trucks that come in to supply the groceries multiple times per week, on a regular basis. And so a lot of that is not happening these days. And so therefore, it's a delicate situation, and the global supply chain of silver is no different. It must travel through the courses of the different chain links in order to get its way into our products, into our services, and for most of you that are watching this video, into the form of coins, rounds, and bars. So there you have it. Very interesting indeed. So there is the global supply chain. I hope this gives you a better understanding of how silver moves in the industry or across the economy. It greatly affects it in multiple different ways and different aspects. You and I will notice it with much higher premiums to come. And that is one thing that I can say with a fair amount of confidence, that we're going to start to see higher premiums make their way back again soon. Not that they ever really went away. So if you found this video insightful, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.